Hey, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? This is Kathy. Welcome to our live event entitled Public Trial, Secret Trial to Seal or to Unseal. That is the question. I'm glad to see some familiar people out there. Miller Time, long-term member of this channel. So happy to see you. Such a big supporter, and I know that we're going to have some people watching on replay because a lot of the folks from the podcast, it's the middle of the night, that have been following my podcast for the past couple of years are in different countries. So, another channel member, Tina, thank you. Thrive, so good to see you. Well, I'm not on camera today. I'm protesting because tomorrow was supposed to be the start of the trial in Idaho versus Kohberger. And instead, we're here speaking today about this court order to hopefully start unsealing these records. No, I'm just kidding. I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. But the focus has always been on the documents in this case, not on me or not on anyone. So with that started, I'm so happy that so many of you here. I'm glad you could be here. Down, Julianne, Thrive, Miller Time, Tina, thank you. I just want to start with a little bit of background on the case. I know that many of the people that are here live now have been diligently following the case, which had been called the case of the year, if possibly even the decade, and I certainly believe. Hi, hello from Hawaii. Hola, Richard. Glad to see you. Another channel member. Glad to see you. A lot of you have been following this case from the beginning. A lot of people have gotten interested in it, just even since the change of plea. So I just want to do a little bit of what we call a procedural posture to go over the main portions of the case and where it is that we are now. On the 13th of November, 2022, in a small town in northern Idaho called Moscow, 4 young people went to bed or were in process of going to bed and didn't make it, didn't survive until the morning. And we always want to be cognizant of what the mission was for the Idaho versus Kohberger podcast and what the mission here is, which is to seek the truth of what happened at 1122 King Road in the names of Kaylee Gonzalez, 21, Madison Mogan, 21, Xana Kernodle, 20, and Ethan Chapin, who had just turned 20. Ethan's birthday was October 29th, 2022, so he was barely out of his teens. We had 4 young people, and we're only now learning the gravity of just how vicious and how inhumane what happened under that roof was, because during the time that this case was proceeding, so much of it was under seal, withheld from the public domain. So it's only now, in the past few weeks, that we started to see some documents being unsealed. First by the Moscow Police Department back on July 23rd, and literally within less than 48 hours ago, we got the document dump from the Idaho State Police, which we're just going through right now. And it's only now that we realize just how horrendous and catastrophic that event was. And my belief in covering this trial was always to search for the truth in the names of those victims, to ensure that whoever played a role, whether the actual perpetrator or perpetrators who entered the house, anyone who assisted before the fact, after the fact, co-conspirators, accessories, every single one was held to account in what I believe those 4 young people deserved, which was, we called it a 6 Sigma highest quality investigation possible. We're now starting to see the papers from the investigation. There's a lot of questions as to if the sole and the correct perpetrator, even though he stood up in court, we got to take that into effect. He pled guilty under oath. Is he the sole and the correct defendant? Don't know. We were supposed to find that out starting tomorrow. Tomorrow was the start of the jury trial that was supposed to be. But getting back to the case, the 13th of November, Moscow Police Department is called several hours after the timeline of what the state of Idaho has told the public it was of the crimes. Minutes after 4 and ending minutes before 4:30. The first call to the Moscow Police Department, however, did not go out until approximately 11:56 a.m. First responder, Officer Mitch Nunez, from what we've learned from the documents, responded, first person foot on the ground on property at 11:58 a.m., followed by 4 other, at least MPD, Moscow Police Department, law enforcement officials: Warner, Smith, Snyder, and also Sergeant Gunderson. From what we can tell from the documents that we've seen, all 5 were on scene, and there were many, many others from the Moscow Police Department who responded as well. The hunt was on for whoever perpetrated these atrocities. And the Moscow Police Department, very early on, from what we've learned now with the document drop of the other day, it was at approximately 12:21 that the call went to the Idaho State Police for assistance. Idaho State Police was on scene shortly thereafter, and they pretty much led the processing of the crime scene. And we've also known that two bureaus from the feds, we've just found out Homeland Security with this document drop was involved. And we learned before that it was also the feds. So we now, as the public, are looking to the Moscow Police Department because they had jurisdiction over these crimes that happened in their community. There were a series of press conferences. There were some press releases that were issued in the days and weeks following the crime. We were told that there were no persons of interest or suspect. We found out that that was false. We found out with the Idaho State Police records that there was at least one suspect that we've been able to find who was considered a suspect or a person of interest who was under surveillance for 2 days. And we've also found out that the feds conducted interviews of certain, what they called witnesses. Quite a few of them turned over what we've learned, their DNA. We're just now going through the Idaho State Police records. They were just, as I've said, released. So we're learning what went on behind the scenes because Moscow Police Department released little to nothing. All we knew was that by the 30th of November, they appeared to have cleared quite a few people. And I kept wondering when it happened, how possibly they've got this quadruple unaliving. They're saying there's no suspects. This is a little town that hadn't dealt with an unaliving of any kind for 7 years? Something, much less something of this catastrophic event. How do you go through clearing as many people as they did? I always had that question. And so we're trying to find out. Hi, G Wiz, another one of our members here. Glad you made it. Wondered how they could have cleared so many. And it appeared that at least one of the people that they claimed they cleared, they were looking at very closely. They got warrants. They went in. They found some red stuff in his apartment, which was very close to where the murder scene, the unaliving scene happened. Excuse me. And so they were looking at a lot of people. And then we found out during the motions to suppress evidence that it was around the 12th or so, the 10th of December, that Othram, who was supposed to be trying to do some DNA testing on a swab that came from the sheath, the star evidence in the case. Bottom line, that's it. No matter what anyone else says, and we've heard some interviews, oh, well, even without the sheath, it would. Nonsense. He was arrested as soon as they did the trash pull from where he was in Pennsylvania. That's Mr. Kohberger. So all sorts of questions regarding the discovery of the sheath. I've done a series of presentations that I hope you've had an opportunity to watch, to listen to. I know a lot of you have. That says, how could 5 first responders from the Moscow Police Department, including one who took 182 pictures, not have mentioned word one in any of their reports of November 13th of a sheath? It's supposed to be visible either partially or in full from the door. And now we find out from 2 different sources, from the chief of police and also from the big, I don't know if you saw the splashy article that came out in the Idaho Statesman. They're saying that Detective Payne is the one who found the sheath. But then we have a report from a sergeant who accompanied him to the crime scene that day, saying it was the ISP who found the sheath. So a lot of questions. We haven't seen the sheath. Has anyone seen a photograph of the sheath? I haven't seen a photograph of the sheath. We've seen no video. We've seen no body cam, time stamped with receipts, nothing. We're supposed to continue to do what we were told during press conferences from Captain Lanier. You're going to have to believe us. You know, the people that follow my channel and that have followed my podcast, they don't subscribe to that way of thinking. They subscribe to the way of thinking that this country was built on, which was, we don't hold trials privately. It's because it's the public who will hold the court system, the prosecutors, the defense attorney, as well as law enforcement in check, and make sure that everything runs smoothly. If you haven't had an opportunity to listen to the media's attorney who went before Judge Hippler and said, hey, this is how our country was set up, and she went back and she cited to Supreme Court precedent, trials are supposed to be open. Pre-trials should be open. Yes, there's opportunities and there's reasons for certain trials, especially dealing with juveniles and pre-trials, that should be sealed. But anyone should have been able to walk into that courtroom in Moscow or in Boise and watched proceedings, not having these hearings after hearings after hearings after hearings under seal. Sometimes the public didn't even know a hearing happened until way later. And then to have all this evidence under seal. So we were told Mr. Kohberger was arrested the 30th of December in Pennsylvania, right? And no one else has been arrested in all the time. It's almost 3 years to November 13th. It'll be 3 years, November 13th, 2025, that this catastrophe happened. And the only person who's ever been arrested is Mr. Kohberger. So for 2.5 years, evidence was held from the public. And both sides, not just the state. The state had the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that he was the sole and the correct defendant. That's a very high evidentiary standard. The defense for 2.5 years contended that he was not guilty. He was even, at one point, they said words to the effect that he is factually innocent. Defense attorneys don't say that. They'll say the evidence isn't here to convict. Don't come out and say he's innocent. That's very rare. That's a strong statement to make. So we saw filing after filing after filing after filing for all this time, dating back to January of 2023. Motion to file evidence under seal. Motion to file responses to evidence under seal. We say evidence is discovery. Motion for discovery, and then comes the motion to seal. So for 2.5 years, we've seen this mountain of evidence being withheld. And then it's not just that. It's things like jury instructions. The trial order that Judge Hippler put out after change of venue happened in the fall of 2024, said a lot of things needed to be filed under seal. Witness lists, jury questionnaire questions proposed, but not jury instructions. Every single criminal trial that operates in this country, you're going to typically see a jury instruction that says, this is how we're going to instruct the jury. This is how you should instruct the jury on burden of proof, or that Mr. Kohberger has a Fifth Amendment privilege. If he does not testify, it cannot be held against him. Or here's the role of the trier of fact versus the trier of law. Every single jury instruction is under seal for the trial that never happened, commencing tomorrow, including the one purportedly that the two sides were told after, for 2 years, the defense kept fighting IGG, IGG, IGG. And then the in limine filings come out and they say, whoops, we're not going to use anything related to IGG. And then, so here comes an order from Judge Hippler. Okay, the two of you have a homework assignment. You're going to come up with a jury instruction to tell the jury not to look behind the Wizard of Oz's door over there. All right, you're going to tell the jury needs to be instructed that a tip came in and that's what led to Kohberger and nothing else. Don't be concerned. Have you ever heard of anything like that in your life? I surely haven't. The lack of transparency in this case has been breathtaking. We cannot, my opinion, and I give my First Amendment opinion, we cannot stand to have another trial operate like this, pre-trial even, with so much evidence kept out of the public domain. And now we're getting ready to go to trial, right? We're getting ready to watch this trial. Okay, you've told the public for 2.5 years, both of you, so defense and state, we need to have a gag order. So therefore, nobody ever gave a press release. Nobody ever did a press conference that you're starting to see now because of this skin tight, this gag order. And then on top of it, all the documents under seal. So, all right, let's get to trial. And then when probably at the time when these super secret questionnaires were going to go out, and we learned from Hippler that he was prepared to summon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of jurors because of the debacle that happened in May, when evidence apparently from the case, and some of it may not have even been admissible into evidence, got leaked. And so the public got slapped in the face because 2.5 years we were told, oh, no, you can't see this evidence. But somebody decides that they're going to give it to who they felt that should get it. And then we see this special come on television where all this information that was withheld from the public, it's being out there for public consumption by the media, who earned what we understand is quite a lot of money. And we still don't know if anyone was ever held to account for that. But in any event, we're patiently waiting for the trial. What happens June 30th? We start to hear whispers of a possible plea deal. And then it's like, how could that possibly be? The sides are so far apart. And then we get the notice of hearing, and then the hearing on the 2nd of July. And doesn't he stand up in open court and plead guilty to all 5 of the charges that were brought against him by indictment? And then what happens? Tomorrow gets canceled. August 18th jury trial. Bye-bye. No more trial. Why weren't they starting from then to prepare the process of unsealing this super secret case, where you would think national security was at issue here, that we had to make sure that the public was, as collectively, the entire nation, couldn't have documents out there because it would possibly jeopardize security. That's what this case felt like. So, okay, so he pleads guilty. They've made a deal. What about the mountain of evidence that's still under seal? What about all the other documents that are under seal? Well, they don't do anything. Go to sentencing, 23rd, he's sentenced, bye-bye. He's sent off to the prison, and Judge Hippler decrees the case is closed. This case has been closed since July 23rd, and not one piece of paper from the documents dating back to January 2023 have been unsealed. Not one. So what's Hippler do? He waits a couple more weeks, and then, have you seen the order regarding sealed documents? Has anyone out there so much for making the public safe and aware? Gee whiz, I know. Gee whiz, what do you think? They don't want us to know. Somebody had made a comment. One of our members, I think it was Tina, had said she's waiting. She's thinking this is going to take a lot longer. They're waiting. Nobody's filed anything yet in terms of their objections. This court order came out on August 4th. As of Friday, when we just checked the public docket and also the case summary page, neither side has filed anything. They're really going up to the very, very end. So we get this order on August 4th, and Hippler says within 2 weeks, you state and you defense, I'm going to give you a list of documents. I call it phase 1. The most recent is dated July 24th, 2025. The oldest of them dates back, what is it? Is it June 2nd, 2025? That's it. So anything that got sealed in January of 2023, who knows when they're going to get to that phase? Who knows when they're going to get to the information that was sealed in May of 2023? Or how about January of 24, even 25? This thing might take 2 years before it's all closed. Before the case, if it is ever unsealed, and I'll believe it when I see it, it may take 2 years going at this pace, because all this document does of August 4th is say, of these documents here, oldest of which June 2nd, 2025, most recent July 24th, 2025, you both sides submit your non-objections. If you don't have any objection to something like State's Exhibit S1 at the sentencing hearing, the photographs that were used at the sentencing hearing, why would they object to that being under seal? It was introduced at the hearing, right? You would think that there would be 2 non-objections that would have went out the same day, 4th of August. Oh, we don't have any objection to that, Judge. Those photographs were shown in open court. Nope, haven't seen it yet. So they're telling me they're both taking their sweet time. They're going to take it up to the very end. It's possible maybe they filed something on Friday and it just didn't hit the case summary page yet. But why would you continue to object to something under seal that you presented in open court at sentencing, the photographs of the students? So buckle your seatbelts, because now what needs to happen, tomorrow's the deadline. They're now supposed to put in their legal authority, their factual authority as to why this information should be under. I would have liked him to say, give your legal authority and factual authorities why you ever asked for every one of these things to go under seal. I didn't see Judge Hippler make that ruling, because I'll tell you, from the podcast especially, the podcast was established way before this YouTube channel was. And you'll see, I mean, you can see the podcast episodes. They populate over here from the home base. It was somewhere else, and then it got sold to Spotify. That's where it's been. And it'll be like episode 43, another motion to seal discovery. Episode 51, yet another order to seal discovery. And then episode 252. Oh, now we have a stipulation to seal discovery from both sides. And the reasons, sometimes they made no sense. You would get like, okay, State would have a motion to seal their discovery responses, and they would list 5 reasons. And it would be reason number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Either they were continuously getting the numberings of these 5, or they were cutting and pasting from the last request, knowing maybe that the judge is going to seal everything that they want them to seal. There has never been a request to seal anything that has ever been denied, not by Judge Marshall, not by Judge, not by Judge Hippler. Never in this case has anyone ever been told, no, we can't seal that document. The First Amendment wins. It is going to supersede your reasons. That has never happened. So that's why I would have liked to have seen Judge Hippler say, give a reason why, because you decided to enter into this plea deal basically on the courtroom steps as we were getting ready to go to trial. You tell us why you moved, because the judge didn't seal anything unless there was a motion or a stipulation from the state, the defense, or both. Hey, J-Rod's here. We have it's always great to see content creators on here. Thank you for being here. CEO, legendary, glad to see you here. We have so many people. Gee whiz again, Design Rhythm. Thank you. Thank you all. Richard, I believe they are setting the stage for Brian to go away. Too much emphasis on his jail and cell as if to convince us he's really there. Oh, well, Richard is talking about this leak of this. Have you in your life ever seen anything like this? This is supposed to be Idaho's highest security prison, right? The worst of the worst. That's where they go. We never saw the inside of cells before. You had people like mainstream media that are going out there. They're touring parts of that facility with the warden just before they went and covered the sentencing proceeding. They were only able to access limited areas. No inside of any jail cell was shown. J section, where Kohberger is supposed to be, they didn't go near that place. Why? Well, probably maybe because they were concerned about breakouts. You know, you start showing the architecture and how these rooms are set up, people get ideas. They're supposed to be keeping not only the inmates safe, but also staff, right? There have been times when there's been situations where the inmates have taken over. Certain people have died over the years. So then we see the and now he's being displayed like we're watching a hamster, you know, in a little, or, you know, or a doggy in the, or something like that. How does that get leaked to the public? How about leaking the case to the public? You know, we're not going to see that, but they somehow get this video. So is that yes, Satire's asking, is that a violation of his civil rights? You might see a 42 USC 1983 claim out of that potentially. That's somewhere where, like, when people get beaten up in jail or when their civil rights are violated, they'll find he's going to say, I'm here 3 weeks. They're taunting me. The media has been enraging. The public doesn't have the cases of yet because it's a matter of national security. We can't have the public understand what's going on in the case. So yeah, it's a possibility. You raise a very good point. Julianne is saying, disgusting. Gee whiz, makes sense. Gee whiz, yeah. I'm glad to see we have so many of the members here. Thank you for being here, and thank you for everyone for taking time out of your Sunday. Getting back to, let's take a look and see, ladies and gentlemen, because this should be the live before the trial. I had set this date aside for about 6 months to do a live before the trial. Instead, we're going to do a live to see if there's ever going to be any documents withheld from the public. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, even though you've seen documents that law enforcement agencies have redacted, that is not from Idaho versus Kohberger, the case that was before Judge Hippler. Those are two different scenarios. Nothing has been unsealed in the case that's been closed for the better part of a month. So we have this court order. And so we're going to wait tomorrow. You know, of course, we're going to monitor that docket like a hawk. Someone came up, one of my members, so on top of things, comes up and says, well, what about what guarantee do we have that they're not going to be submitting these documents under seal? Their objections or non-objections? You know, that is a very good question. There's a possibility they may even be filing their objections or non-objections under seal. Just another kick in the public's knee, in my opinion. So what are some of the things that we're looking at here? We have a 99-year no contact order that was apparently signed. So this is orders modifying the 99-year no contact order that was rendered on July 23rd by Judge Hippler. That's one of the things being considered to possibly be unsealed. Sheriff's return concerning witness TAD. That is item number 8. And then why not just put salt in the wounds, defense? Why don't you? Item 7, second notice of filing defendant's additions objections to the juror questionnaire. That's the process. That's what they would use as a tool to determine who would be a juror or not a juror in the case. Defendant's reply in support of motion for access. Remember, they wanted to test some evidence. They were looking for access to test evidence in July and June. Not July. July is when we got the shock of the no trial. Oh, here's one that I am very, very, very much interested in. Item number 22, June 12th, 2025. Order sealing state's response to defendant's motion regarding special investigation. So it appears that there is some type of an investigation that was going on to find out, as Judge Stephen J. Hippler said in his orders of May 15th, 2025, the person or people responsible for leaking, for violating what it's called. It's called contempt of court. It's contempt of that court order, that someone had the temerity to decide that they had access to evidence that was under seal, where they're going to decide who's going to get it and under what conditions. And we could say maybe that money changed hands, but we're not going to say that. We have no evidence. We have no evidence about that. That would be preposterous, that something like that, which would earn multiple millions of dollars for the media, could possibly return it with some sort, or maybe a favor. Who knows? No, we're not going to say that. We have no evidence that happened. So at least as of June, there's a special prosecutor that's supposed to be looking into this. And is that still going on? I could see that being a candidate that won't be sealed. They're continuing on, or the case stopped. They stopped looking when the case closed. But that's all information that needs to be sealed from the public domain. And then we go down this list. Motion for independent analysis of evidence. Would you like to see what that is? What was the defense looking to do on June 6, 2025, when they were looking for the authority to test evidence? I'd like to know. I'd like to be able to report that to you right now in the next Indie Zone podcast, episode number 803, but I can't because it's under seal right now. So we're going to wait and see. Now, ladies, what I cannot emphasize enough is don't expect to see anything unsealed, like any of the discovery responses, any of the discovery requests, evidence, this information regarding the special investigation. What's happening right now is the parties are telling Judge Hippler, they're supposed to be telling him legal and factually why the information should not be unsealed. So we don't know. We don't know at this time. It's until Judge, and then he's got to now look at all 24. There's how many are there? 24. Oh no, I'm sorry. There's 43 items here. He's got to look at every single response from the state and the defense. 43 separate items. You think we're going to get a ruling during the month of August? I would be very surprised. He's going to have to go through everything. He may ask for them to clarify a little bit more, and then the order comes out. So we'll see. I say I will expect the evidence to be disseminated when it's on that docket and not a minute before. Any questions, thoughts, comments? Yeah, gee whiz, not good enough. The case is over. He stood up and he pled guilty on July 2nd. Tomorrow is August 18th. That's when the jury trial got canceled. He didn't wait until sentencing to cancel the jury trial. He canceled the jury trial on July 2nd, a month and a half ago. A lot of people are asking, Kathy, why wasn't the entire case unsealed at that time? Anybody have any thoughts? Still ongoing. The sheriff's warrant returned is very interested. So satire is very interested in hopefully satire, there'll be an order unsealing that last sheriff's warrant. Hopefully. Shame on Hippler for all of this. I'm half asleep. Stone's half asleep. A small town secrecy is what CEO is saying. Susie 666. I want to ask you guys her question. Do you think Mr. Kohberger will appeal? Do you think he will appeal? Well, the first point that I would like to make, and my opinion is no better than anyone else's, so I really would like to hear yours. He pled guilty. That it's not like an Alfred plea. If he would have done what's called an Alfred plea and just merely got, hey, look, I filed motions to suppress evidence, failed at all of them. I filed motions to strike the notice of DP. All of those failed. I filed motions in limine. All of them, they failed. Every single one. Frank's hearing, every single one. I think that had possibly, we don't know because we're not privy to the conversations that Mr. Kohberger had with his defense team. He could have gone up and said, hey, you know what? I don't want my parents possibly being forced to get up on the stand to be the state's witness against me in a DP case. Or it could have been the defense saying, look, Mr. Kohberger, we've tried everything. Everything has failed here. And we're going to go to trial. There is a very good possibility that you might be convicted. Now, I wish we could tell you on what grounds and if that evidence is beyond a reasonable doubt. We can't because the evidence is under seal. Oh, J-Rod, thank you. Thank you. You've been a great support. It really means a lot. Now, I think... Yes, true crime is saying here, very, very true. Truer words could not be spoken. In order to file the appeal, he has to establish grounds. Exactly. You just can't go in there and say, I've been in the prison here in Boise now for 3.5 weeks. I don't like it. I want to appeal. I want to appeal the sentence of my pleading guilty in open court to 5 very serious first-degree felonies. He's got to establish grounds. Now, under the case that Judge Hippler had referenced, hey, when he gets up and says, even though you signed this contract, Mr. Kohberger, you agreed to waive all right to appeal. We know from the Supreme Court case that an appeal waived doesn't really always mean that. That case, how he could cite that case is if, let's just say, he went back to his defense counsel and said, file the notice I got 42 days to file it under the rule, file it. And they come back and say, no, you pled guilty. You stood up in open court. I don't care. File it. Preserve my right to be able to do so. And they don't. Gee whiz, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your super sticker. Let's talk about, will he be able to appeal? He's got 42 days, guys, right? To be able to appeal from the date of the sentence. 42 people have asked, is that 42 business days, like Monday through Friday? You count, okay, Monday through Friday, week 1, that's 5 days, week 2, that's 5. No, it's calendar days. So it brings us right around Labor Day, to as his deadline. If he has instructed his attorneys to file a notice of appeal and they refuse to do it, then under this case that went to the Supreme Court, ineffective assistance of counsel. That would be one grounds. Let's just say that there's new evidence that comes to light that he didn't have. And it establishes, wasn't my DNA, it was actually this other person's DNA. Or some people, I got regarding the sheath, does everyone here agree that the sheath is basically what got that arrest warrant issued by Judge Megan E. Marshall on December 20? It was, remember, if we go back in time, over 2.5 years ago, it was 4 things were filed on the 29th of December that sealed Mr. Kohberger's fate the next day. Number 1, 18-page affidavit of probable cause. signed by Detective Brett Payne, who, by the way, is missing in action. Has anyone seen Detective Brett Payne? Everyone else is coming out and giving interviews. He's the lead detective in the case. He's not to be seen anywhere. Okay, he filed the affidavit of probable cause, 18 pages, July 29, 2022. It says, words to the effect of, yes, I'm testifying under penalty of perjury. All of the above is true, and I'm asking you, Judge, to enter a warrant for his arrest. Then we had number two. We had Bill Thompson filed a criminal complaint based on the affidavit of probable cause, and he cited all 5 of the crimes, count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, exactly as what was seen in the indictment. Count 1, burglary; 2, Madison; 3, Kaylee; 4, Xana; 5, Ethan. Go back to the criminal complaint, December 29th, 2022. You'll see that that's how the crimes were listed. And Thompson asked Judge Megan E. Marshall to issue an arrest warrant. Judge Marshall she entered the order finding probable cause. Down the rabbit hole, good to see you here. She entered the order finding probable cause on the 29th, followed by the arrest warrant. Those were the 4 things. Let's just say, okay, I want to know who thinks that it was something else but the sheath that got that arrest warrant and that order of probable cause. Page was probably pulled from the pressers. Richard saying from Hawaii. Sheath, yes, but I also think he was making a name for himself with his abnormal behavior. Plus, he was driving all around town a lot and getting stopped a lot. He was starting to stick out, in my opinion. Yeah, my name is Happy. Good to see you. Where's A.R. Hayes is here? I didn't see you. A.R. Oh, there he is. Hey, much respect. A.R. Hayes in the house. Always good to see you, sir. So we now get the, yes, I'll go out on a limb and I'll say without that sheath, they didn't have enough to arrest him. They're not going to be able to bust through his house at 1 o'clock in the morning. And the Pennsylvania State Police, Justin M. Leary, that's who arrested Mr. Kohberger, took him into custody. And without that sheath, none of that's happening. Thank you. Delete that. Delete that. I'm wondering what was deleted in this case. We're gonna find. No. I'm joking. Delete that. Thank you. So we had all of these things happen December 29th, 2022. Without that sheath, Stone saying definitely the sheath. Love your channel, Amanda Smith. I love you. Thank you. Okay, so now fast forward. Let's fast forward. We're starting to see some documents. I have made it my business to figure out how multiple members of Moscow Police Department apparently missed that sheath. And it took the brilliance of Detective Brett Payne to walk into that little room, and he saw it. We got to see body cam footage. Sorry. People that follow my channel, whether they're other content creators like J-Rod, A.R. Hayes, they operate on evidence. They don't want to be told what the defense or the state or the prosecution or the law enforcement or even Judge Hippler says the evidence is. The people who follow my podcast, who follow this channel, want to see the evidence. Show us that. Remember, show me the money, that famous line. Show me the sheath. Show me evidence that it was on that bed when the first police officer, and his name would be Mitch Nunez, walked in there. Show me the sheath when Warner walked in there, when Smith walked in there, when Gunderson walked in there, and probably most important of all, when Snyder walked in there. And not only walked in there as a first responder, then proceeds to walk through the house and take 182 photographs. Oh, and who does he have with him? He walks through that house with Sergeant Gunderson. So they're walking through a second time. Why don't we have descriptions of photographs? 10 or 12 of them. Sheath from the left side, sheath from the right side, sheath overhead, sheath from this angle, sheath from that angle. That's what I expected to see. J-Rod is saying, yes, Kathy, they didn't have nothing Bill said it all. Yes, he did. Thank you, J-Rod, for bringing up that point. Mr. Thompson said recently, did he not? Sorry, Tollefson up in ISP, who says he claims, speaking on behalf of Detective Brett Payne, who's missing in action, that they would have probably gotten to Kohberger. No, you wouldn't have. It took that chief. So here's my theory. Do you guys want to hear my theory? Is this boring you? Do you want to hear what my theory is? If they deleted the sheath too, delete that. Delete that is saying they deleted the sheath too. I love that name, by the way. Delete that. Are impossible, in my opinion. I'm giving an opinion. I'm speculating here. I'm doing it like we're having a conversation, like the founding fathers wanted. We're just sitting here over a cup of coffee and we're discussing current affairs. This crime happened in northern Idaho. People in that community, they hunt, they fish, they walk around with K-bars, right? Wasn't there an axe throwing contest or something the night of the 12th at some establishment on Main Street, right? Wasn't there? So you want to tell me that Mitch Nunez, who was born and raised in that area, walked into that room with Warner, colleague, and they didn't say, oh my gosh, four people brutalized here, brutalized with this weapon. Look at the sheets right there. Wouldn't that have spread like wildfire throughout the Moscow Police Department and have been written in Warner's report, in Nunez's report, in Smith's report, in Snyder's report, and then photographs, and in Gunderson's report, and everybody else who followed? Sheesh, nobody. So, according to the Idaho Statesman, they're saying that, what's his name? Detective Payne showed up at 1122 King Road 2 hours after the first responder. Is that, you guys, you're on top of the case more than me, I think. You are on top of this case. What time did the affidavit of probable cause say that Payne showed up at 1122 King Road? Was it 2:00 p.m.? Because that's 2 hours beyond when Nunez got there approximately. It's always been 4 hours. Tina, thank you. Tina B. Sid, 16, 4 hours. Miller time. Richard Art, the members of the channel are coming out in droves and reminding the world that he said under penalty of perjury that he arrived at about 4:00. And what happened then? Did he walk through himself? No. He's accompanied by who? Who remembers who? It's right on page 1 of the affidavit of probable cause. Who accompanied Payne through 1122 King Road, starting from the front door? Because he didn't go through it himself. He didn't have to. Smith. That's right. Stanley IP Kiss. It is Corbin Smith. Now, why should that name pop out to that immediately? Oh, Detective Mallory. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Don't take anything that we're saying here personally, sir. It's good to see you. Payne was already doing interviews. That's right. He was doing interviews down at MPD, including a person whose name he threw under the bus in the affidavit of probable cause, Jack D. I have no understanding why he published his full name in the affidavit of probable cause when he's all ambiguous about the DoorDash driver. Corbin Smith. What time did Corbin Smith arrive on scene? According to his report, I think it's document number 3. He arrived on scene at noon. So we now have Detective Payne showing up at approximately 4, and he has walked through with one of the first people who went up into Madison Mogen's bedroom, right? One of the first. He's the third person who walked in there after Nunez and Warner. And he was there. He was there. Remember, you see photographs from the media from November 13th. You'll see him in the back. He's the cop that's looking outside from the slider. That's Smith. So Payne is walked through. You would think that if Smith was there for 4 hours inside the house, that word would have gotten to him. Oh my God, there's a sheath on the bed. You're not going to believe it, detective. Stop everything. Stop the presses right now. The sheath is on the bed. Nope. So he goes up there, and then he doesn't even say he saw it. He said later it was seen from the door, right? Very, 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 very suspect vehicle one to me here. It's very suspect to me. Delete that. I wanted to ask about that. Can nothing be done? Well, unfortunately, these AR, I don't know if anybody watched AR Hayes' show the other day. I recommend you do. He's talking about the differences between when you plead guilty and it's an Alford plea where you're saying, I'm still maintaining my innocence, but I'm going to plead guilty because I'm the evidence against me is insurmountable. And I got a judge who's ruling against me every which way but loose here. Nope. He stood up. And remember when I think was the absolute, the nail, the tough one. Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty? Did anyone promise you anything? Are you getting any threats? Are you being forced to do this? I mean, he went through everything. It's going to be hard to overcome that. And AR talked about that. You know, when, let's just say he would have gone to trial starting tomorrow. Do you think maybe he's sitting in that cell right now wondering, geez, buyer's remorse? I'd be getting ready. I'd be in the jail there in Ada County, getting ready for the first day of trial tomorrow. You think he's having any buyer's remorse? As AR had very correctly noted, in my opinion, he said if he would have been convicted guilty by a jury, he still would have preserved all of his objections, all of the objections, all of the rulings that went against him. But what's one? But I'll throw one at you right now. That order, I came out when that order denying alternate perpetrators. Remember the one? I've agreed with Judge Hippler on many of his rulings. The motions to suppress, you needed to show standing. They didn't show standing. I still don't know why. To set aside the DP, I don't know why they rushed to bring him back from Pennsylvania to Idaho when Pennsylvania's new governor, who would have had to sign off on him coming back to a state that was so DP that they were looking to reinstitute the firing squad. He came out. He was elected, and he said, I'm going to do exactly what my predecessor did. We're going to fight to set aside this DP. It is inhumane. Too many people that are factually innocent have. You think that governor would have signed that something? He could have had he could have habeas corpus. I still don't understand it to this day. Why he didn't find, what was the rush to get back to Idaho when you're in a state where the person who has to sign the extradition papers, if you're not wanting to go, is that much against the DP. He could have maybe done a deal. Hey, I'll come back, but you got to take the DP off the table. That's done all the time. Like when people run to Canada or something, Canada won't send back people to states that have the DP because of that. So, any event, all of these rulings, I did agree. The rulings on the DP, we're absolutely right. That's something that should come from the legislature, not the judge. Judge can't usurp the legislature's position. But you know what he usurped? He usurped the jury's position, in my humble opinion, that I give under the First Amendment. Number one, Kohberger should have had until trial to be able to raise alternate perpetrator. He should have had a couple more months, maybe, to work, to try to find the evidence to support an alternate perp defense. Judge Hippler said, no, we got to handle this before, because you said that this case is filled with alternate perpetrators. That's going to bog down the jury trial. We got to handle this before trial. So now his right to raise that was taken from him. He could have had another 3 months maximum, even 4, to continue to work, have his investigators work to try to find evidence to support alternate perpetrator. But what Judge Hippler, hi Lily, I'm so glad to see you. Lily has been a supporter of mine, I think, since the beginning. She's in the UK, glad that you are able to make it. Well, then we see the order coming out that says, number one, nope, motion to continue the trial. Sorry. No, we're going to be able to, even with all of this negative evidence, all these books coming out, all this other stuff, we're going to put enough procedural safeguards to be able to make sure that we see the jury. What they are, we don't know, because that's under seal. So Judge Hippler has two footnotes that I was extremely concerned about, and I found quite perplexing. It says there, 3 of the people that you have raised as possible alternate perpetrators live within walking distance of 1122 King Road. He said, the perpetrator drove there. I said, Judge Hippler, what are you doing? What are you doing? That is a question for the jury. That's a question for the jury. Did the perpetrator skateboard to 1122 King Road, roller skate, bicycle, motorcycle, drive, walk, run, jog? That's a jury question, because the defense was saying that's not my car, right? Judge Hippler decided the perpetrator drove to the crime scene. Now, when that happened, hey, Sarah, glad you're here, 100%. When that happened, he could have appealed that. Guys, if he would have gone to trial and been convicted, it's those types of decisions that have been made every step of the way that were unfavorable to him, that he could have preserved all of his appellate rights. And that's what AR was saying in his AR's here. If you could drop that link. This was just a couple of days ago where you went through strategically of what it meant when you're convicted by jury trial versus when you plead guilty. So he's going to have a real hard time overcoming why, if you're not guilty, did you stand up in open court and say you were, not once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times, and answer all the other questions. The Hippler crossface is Brian still at this point. There's no appeal. There's no appeal at all. But then what they could do is, let's just see, there's other evidence to come. This kind of goes back to why I have been devoting so much time to the issue of the discovery of the sheath, right? The sheath was the arrest. Bill Thompson can say up and down 25 times straight that the affidavit of probable cause meant nothing. And I understand what he's talking about, because when that grand jury indictment came down, then preliminary hearing went bye-bye. And that's what he was facing trial on, that indictment. But the indictment was exactly what said in the criminal complaint. The sheath is what got him arrested. And whatever they did to match the sheath, that's what got him arrested. And that's, otherwise, he might still be free right now. And that might be good or it might be bad. We don't know until we see the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, right? So we got at least 5 responders who were through there before 12:15, well before, who don't mention word one about the sheath. We don't even have a picture of the sheath. We don't have video of it. We don't have the body cams that we hope were on showing the discovery of the sheath and when. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through the doors by 12, and I'm being generous, by 12:15. I think it was before then. And then we have Detective Payne coming through after everybody else who walked through that house. And there were many from Moscow Police Department who went in. They all missed it, apparently, because it took Detective Payne. Any explanations how that could have happened? Just thinking logically, all of us have lived a certain number of years in the world, and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Miller time, Auntie would have known that the pro had a weak case, so why didn't she go to trial? It's a good question for her. She's not saying anything right now, Miller time. I don't know. That's a good question. Oh, yes. Put your DNA on the like button. 17 likes and 100. Yes. Thank you, Richard. If everyone could please hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. So here's a couple of possibilities. Here's a couple of possibilities. The sheath was under Madison and therefore not seen when Nunez, Warner, Smith, Snyder, Gunderson, and everybody else walked through. But it was somehow moved. It was somehow moved to a place where it could be seen, or maybe it was on the floor and then placed on the bed. Just coming up with scenarios. We don't know. We have no facts. There is nothing here. This is a wild speculative guess on my part. But we're trying to figure out how all of these people could have missed this sheath. Now, of course, tomorrow they might come out and release the body cam, and then we see the time, another story. But as of right now, with what's known right now, so it was possibility that it was somewhere else and then placed on the bed where it's visible from the door, or it wasn't there at all. And then it was placed lit. I mean, wild speculative guesses. We saw the Twilight Zone. I think somebody here is from the Twilight Zone. That's just a guess. Okay, Miller time. Come on. Please remember what I said last week. I am short. 3 fingers on my right hand, so I type slow. Oh, sorry. Miller time. You type. Good enough. Good enough. Just keep typing. Keep typing. Payne. Oh, here we go with the Payne jokes. Richard Art. Payne is not tall enough to see a sheath on the underside of a body, at least from the door. Sorry for the height shaming. Hi, Kathy. Cheryl, thank you for making it. I know how busy you are. I'm really appreciative that you're here. Okay, so give us. Come on, we're having coffee. We're doing what the founding fathers wanted when he said that when they said criminal trials should be in public, so that citizens can have conversations like down at the coffee shop or over the backyard. That's what we're doing. We're doing that virtually. Give us another reason how so many of the first responders didn't write like paragraphs about this sheath in any of their reports. None of them were word one. And all of the captions, there were 15 photographs that Snyder took, accompanied by Gunderson in Madison's room. He got close enough to recognize the lividity. Got close enough to see that, but not the sheath. Silly what's been said. He left his touch DNA on his application when he applied to the police department, is what Becky's thinking. I think that sheath could have belonged to one of the girls. Self-defense. A lot of people have been saying that. Delete that. A lot of people in that area. Remember that one photograph where it's very famous photograph. It came out early on of Xana, where she's walking. It looks like she's walking out of 1112 carrying a large watermelon, and someone in the back to her has this large, scary looking thing in her hands. It seems like, oh, Susie, 666, I'm joining you in about 2 minutes. Okay, I'll get to, where are you, in London? I'll be there in a second. Order me a glass of rosé. That weapon is used a lot in that area. They all missed the sheath. Okay. All right. We're gonna accept that. Lily is saying that if I were a jury member, I would need to see an image or body cam of the sheath. Yes, of course. And that's what you really are acting as, Lily, because you demand to see evidence. You will not have anyone tell you what the evidence is. I've known you for a while now because you've been following the channel for a long time. You would want to see the information. And that's what I think the people who follow this channel want to see. They want to see the evidence as if they were on a jury. You know what we're missing out on tomorrow? We're missing out on not just seeing the evidence, because it would have to be presented in a court of law to reach the evidentiary standard of beyond a reasonable doubt, but every one of the witnesses would not just get up there and say whatever they felt that they should say. They would be subject to cross-examination. And then the jury and the public would be able to see how they answer, if their answers are making sense, if, how's the body language? Are they looking up? Are they looking down? Are they, looking uncomfortable? Really important. We missed out on seeing all of that. And that tells a lot. I want to see photos from, yes, okay, Sarah's demanding. She wants to see the photos from what LE went through. I think that is not unreasonable. Right. Opening arguments with tomorrow, Miller time, tomorrow morning, 9:00, pursuant to the trial order that Judge Stephen J. Hippler put out. He said tomorrow morning, 9:00, and he's a stickler for time. They would have begun. He would have come in. He would have said a few words, as Judge Hippler has done, greeting everybody, greeting the jury, and then magic words. Counselor, go ahead, make your opening statement. Then we would have seen Bill Thompson get up and make his opening statement. And then the defense would make an opening statement. And then it would go back to Judge Hippler. And then Judge Hippler would turn to the state of Idaho and say the magic words. Counsel, state, call your first witness. And it would have been off. Yes. Well, Cheryl, yeah, they would have probably had the sheath itself. That's item number 11, entered into evidence. If you look at the documents, they talk about it. They talk about all this testing, how, this one's taking the profile, putting it in a backpack, going from Idaho, flying to Texas, bringing it to Othram. Someone else is saying how they're taking the sheath from Moscow and taking it up to Meridian, and then it's transferred, then it's going to the lab, and then they're extracting the DNA, all of that. But yeah, lots of references to this sheath. We heard about it, right? Didn't we hear a lot about it during the sentencing proceeding? Yes, we did. Who's seen a photograph of the sheath? Not even a photograph. Not even a photograph, much less body cam footage, much less time-stamped images, nothing. Kathy could be entered for, well, Detective Maury is asking a very good question. Do you know if the PCA could be entered used for impeachment of evidence? Well, it seems like that ship has sailed, unless that's part of, somehow gets pulled into this super secret investigation that was going on, that we know based on the descriptions of the documents that are on the chopping block or under seal. So, but I mean, in terms of everything else, he could have maybe argued about the PCA, about how it would seem to have been. What was when I looked at that PCA, it was 18 pages. I'll never forget it. I have this podcast since 2016, right? And it's about independent everything: art, music, books, businesses, people, everything independent. And I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to convert it into a true crime podcast, because I'm really into true crime. I think it's interesting, not so much to see although I do want to see a photo of the sheath, more so, how did they crack the case? Tell me about the victims. What was it? Tell me about the facts of the case. And then COVID hit, so the podcast, slept for a couple of years, came back and said, okay, I'm going to do true crime right now. Kohberger's at the top of my list. And then there's a few others. And then I looked at Kohberger and I said, nah, if you're going to cover anything, you're either going to have to cover Kohberger exclusively, or don't cover Kohberger at all, because there were just so many things. And the biggest issue I always had was the secrecy of the case. So the first 18 episodes literally goes down. Episode 1, page 1 of the affidavit of probable cause. Episode 2, page 2 of the affidavit of probable cause. 3, page 3, 4. And I listed all of the inconsistencies, or the things that make you say, huh? What? Sort of like how Captain Lanier described hoodie guy, his reaction when the girls walked away. What? He puts in his report. Literally saying that over and over again. Give you an example. Detective Payne alleges that at 1:30 a.m. on the 13th of November, 2022, that Madison and Kaylee were at the Corner Club, but they were also at the Grub Truck at that same time. It's like, Detective Payne, how could they be in two places at once? They're either at the Grub Truck or they're at the Corner Club. And time was so critical. I mean, we're getting down to, this is less than, 2.5 hours from the start of the timeline of the crimes. Time to the pinpointed to the second was so important in those couple of hours. So there was that PCA, to be generous, left a lot to be deserved. And there was a lot left out that we're only starting to find out now, i.e., what is this about fireworks waking up BF on the first floor, right? She's nowhere near where the bottom of her door would show fireworks being thrown outside if people were making pranks at 4 o'clock in the morning, throwing fireworks into the parking lot of 1122, right? So she hears and sees the light. Does anyone remember seeing that in the PCA? Does anyone remember seeing that there was red stuff on the banister going from 1 to 2 that was never entered into CODIS? Anyone recalls? Why was all of that kept out of the PCA? Let's not even begin to talk about how different DM's statement was to the first person who spoke with her, which is Nunez, to what it ultimately was in the affidavit of probable cause. Where's this business about Kaylee playing music upstairs, running up and down the steps? Oh, and now here's the new fiction that's come out, which is absolutely false. The Kohberger said Kaylee's name. No, it didn't happen. So they're still with the nonsense, with the fairy tales. But the bottom line, and going back to Detective Mallory's, like AR said, and that show was so good because he went through it, he's pled guilty. So all of these pieces that he could have raised in an appeal, he's going to have a hard time. He's going to have a hard time because he stood up and he pled guilty. It's different. I think he should have gone to trial. Now that we're seeing what this case is all about that was withheld from the public, I think he should have gone to trial. That's just my personal opinion. And if he did it, then he should have, looked at possibly the DP. But if he didn't do it, then he shouldn't have been convicted. But you need evidence beyond a reasonable doubt is a high standard, very high. You can have one person sit there and say, nah, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying it. I'm not going to send this guy to the firing squad. And that's all it would have taken because you needed those 12 people to be unanimous. So going back, games people play, Miller time, keep coming back. Miller time's asking the questions. He's asking the questions. Why did he plead? What are we, the public, not seeing? Or what is it that's still under seal that the public's not seeing? Even if, let's just say he's driving around the house. He's driving around the house. That's his car. To be convicted for burglary, you got to be in the house. And they need to show evidence that you're in the house, that you walked from that backyard and you entered the house. You physically crossed that line. For two of them at sentencing, Miller time and I have had many conversations about this. He said, Thompson stood up and said, we're not saying here that he intended to commit all the crimes. And it's like, you're not saying that. You needed to say that to charge him with all first degree unaliving, because intent is what makes the difference between a first and a second degree, or even manslaughter. I don't know. Okay. So True Crime is saying it's to buy time. I think he will appeal, and then the plea will get reversed and back to trial. I think that was the plan from the start. We'll see. We'll see. Satire. If that was in the statement, I would have brought it up many questions, although the magistrate would sign it. Okay. So Satire is suggesting that Judge Megan E. Marshall would have signed a cereal box when she was presented with that affidavit of probable cause back on December 29th, 2022. Okay, well, Design Rhythm is now taking this conversation in a whole nother direction. Design Rhythm is saying the problem is the undercover cop said they were circling that neighborhood, but it doesn't match the video. So it's either the unaliver's car or the cops, but it can't be both. Right. Okay, let's talk about MM. Let's talk of this. This would seem to be the star witness, right? She is literally, we found out now only recently, This was not a situation where she's pulling up to the door and she's dropping off the order. She's literally not able to find that house. Can't imagine why it's facing King Road. It's facing Queen Road, but it's got a King Road address. Even the two cops, remember the two cops that had gone to the frat boy's house in the summer and a noise complaint there, and they decided to walk over to 1122. They're saying when they're talking with the station, oh, we're going to 1122 Queen Road. They didn't even know what the address was. So there we have the DoorDash driver is lost. So she decides to park her car in the back, decides to get out of her car, walk around to the front, and now we see video captured of her on the 1112 camera, and she appears to be walking around with a flashlight, turns around, goes back, and then supposedly she figures out where the place is, she drops off the food, she leaves. But what did she say? What did she say in her state? What did she say? Detective Brett Payne on November 23rd interviewed her down at the station, the Moscow Police Department. Who recalls not what she said when she was on the body cam footage from Washington. We're talking about going back to when she sat down and she's sitting across from Detective Payne. This is November 23rd. This is day 11 after she physically dropped off that bag. And there's 4 horrendous crimes that took place feet away from where she stood dropping off that bag. Right? The only thing that's separating her from the crime scene is that front door. She didn't come forward. They had to go looking for her. Right? Do you recall how they found her? Did she go? She lives in the neighborhood. She works in the neighborhood. I mean, she literally drives around. It's not something where she works in her home or she goes over to Pullman or somewhere to work. She is literally, her work is on the streets of Moscow, dropping off food, one location to the other. She knows those streets. So you don't think with all of the press that ascended, international press on Moscow, that by Monday, Tuesday, she would not have put 2 and 2 together and said, oh my gosh, there's been a mass unaliving in Moscow, and it's at 1122 King Road where I just was. Let me get down to the police station right now. Nope, she didn't come forward. They found her through a pen, trap, and trace. That Detective Mallory, who happens to be right now chatting with you guys, he signed and he wrote the report and said it was a pen, trap, and trace that they continued to have through November 30th that found the DoorDash driver. And from there, she gets pulled in to have a conversation with Payne. We talked about this yesterday. You know, there's only 2 people that we know that Detective Mallory or Detective Payne applied for a pen, trap, and trace device on this case. So far, I haven't found anybody else. The 2 people, the DoorDash driver and Brian Kohberger. That's it. So they get the information that it's this woman, MM, we're going to call her MM, comes in. What does she say to Detective Brett Payne? Oh my gosh, I saw a guy with bushy eyebrows. He's driving a 20, a 20. She drives around, so she's probably knows cars, right? More than somebody who works in a house or maybe in a home office or works in an office somewhere. Or her workplace are the streets of Moscow, so she knows. She probably sees cars. Yes, he had bushy eyebrows. He had a mop of dark hair. He was dressed in black if he got dressed out in the car, and he was. He's driving a white Hyundai Elantra. This, that, and Pennsylvania tags. You know, didn't have a front license plate. I noticed the tag because it was gold and blue. It's not like a Washington or not. No, she didn't say that. She said nothing of the sort. What'd she say? No. Oh, Miller time. No, defense is not under the gag order. Miller time is wondering, there's a rumor going around that the reason why the defense isn't speaking. Absolutely not. Judge Stephen J. Hippler, we all saw it. We heard him say it back on in court when the media came in and argued for that non-dissemination order to be set aside. We know the defense didn't want it set aside. Ann Taylor, the architect and the author of the first non-dissemination order, who convinced Bill Thompson, hey, good idea, let's get this signed, let's go to Marshall, day 3 of the case, January 3rd. So yeah, the defense argued to not have that non-dissemination order set aside. They wanted it kept in place. And we wouldn't have the information that we do if Ann Taylor would have been successful. She's as guilty as anyone else, in my opinion, for the secrecy of this case. As much and possibly even more so than the state of Idaho. So anyway, yeah. So she gets pulled in. Let's get back to Molly, the MM, the DoorDash driver. And what she tell Detective Page, sitting across from him, she goes, yeah, I couldn't find the place. So I parked the car in the back, walk around. And then I see a car driving past me, tan colored, guy sitting in the front seat. He's got like a white shirt on, either red or blonde hair. Oh, well, it was dark paint. I used to about pens. Well, it was dark. Are you sure it wasn't? He didn't have dark hair. Nope, he did not. He had red, and I'll tell you why, because he had the light on inside the car. You know that light overhead that if you're lost, you pull over, you turn the light on to read your directions on your smartphone. He's driving with that. And she said with a very intent look on his face. She didn't see Kohberger. She didn't see an Elantra with Pennsylvania tags. That was all nonsense. Then what's this peekaboo going on the 3rd floor at 4 o'clock in the morning? Woman with long dark hair. First off, if that's sad and this is her order, don't you think she would have ran downstairs if she saw Molly pulling up with her order and saw on her phone that your orders arrived and maybe a text from Molly saying, oh, I'm here, I'm trying to find you, come on down. Plus on top of that, Molly or MM said, nope, it wasn't any of the victims. So who's up on Kaylee and Madison's floor? 3rd floor. Looking out of a window. And it's just, if you look at that parking, just imagine that parking lot. It's not that big. Looking up. Why is she hiding? You know, I didn't see anything like that. Detective Payne didn't put anything like that in the affidavit of probable cause, right? We find this out later on. Why is all this information kept from the magistrate judge in the affidavit of probable cause? That's important information in my mind, right? But it was kept out. So I think she would have been a very good defense witness. She couldn't place him at the scene. As a matter of fact, she saw another car that might have very well been suspect vehicle 1. I think that there's what they're looking at until we see all the video. We have seen part of the video, right, from the 1112 camera, but we haven't seen all of the video. Suspect vehicle 1, maybe 2, 3, or 4 cars, right? All right, guys, what do you think? Richard's saying Molly had been up for 12 to 16 hours. Who knows what she saw? Yeah, she might have been tired, exhausted. It's 4 in the morning. You're going for 12, 16 hours, driving from one place to the next, going back to the restaurant, going back and forth, stopping for gas. Might have been tired, that lady. But you know what is very odd? Has anyone looked at the affidavit of probable cause recently? I have, as I said, the first 18 episodes of the podcast went over page by page and even then I said, what? A DoorDash, somebody's making a food delivery at right before approximately 4, and you're saying the timeline of the crimes were 4:07 or whatever it was. How did they not bump into each other? Payne didn't even tell us what her gender was. Payne refused to put any details about the DoorDash, just basically threw it in. Oh, it's just like, oh, and by the way, yeah, I really do need, I need you to come and to fix this roof because this roof is caving in and I've got buckets of water coming through and in my nursery, right? My kids. Oh, and by the way, while you're here, I want you to fix the 3rd television also. It's like it was just thrown out there without a lot of detail. And Everybody else in that affidavit of probable cause was either named in terms of all of the victims were named by name. JD was named by his name. It was the private driver. His name's redacted. We got his name because Pennsylvania didn't care. They're like, oh no, when we're unsealing our affidavit of probable cause here, it's getting unsealed. So there you got the private driver's name. You got the name of the medical examiner who they redacted in the Idaho probable cause affidavit. And then there's someone else. There's a third party but the DoorDash driver, there was like this air of ambiguity. I'm like, how wouldn't you put in multiple details about this person? You know, this is going to be going out to the public. You know, a lot of people are already questioning this case because of how secretive it's been. There's no transparency. You look at other cases, the cops will get up and they will say, we got the right person. Here's a picture of his car. Here's this. They did nothing. Nothing was released to the public. Public kept saying, you got to trust us. You got to trust us. You got to trust. We're afraid we're going to hurt. How is this going to hurt your investigation? Nothing. Ellie said, as I approached 11:22, a large group of kids were outside the home. Story changed to so many. And what about all the people? It sounds like there's a bunch of people inside 11:22 also. Who's sitting on the couch with DM and BF at 2 o'clock in the morning? Then we hear somebody else is an old friend, high school friend of both two of the victims, Kaylee and Madison. They knew each other from high school. She calls. She says she's coming over. Kaylee's got to give her the code rather than come down and let her in. So she's in the house before they even live. They even leave for the corner club, and they drive together with this private driver. And then we hear from Judge. Remember when Judge Hippler said all four of them were upstairs in Kaylee's room at 2 o'clock in the morning? It was not San and Ethan because they hadn't gotten home yet, according to Judge Stephen J. Hippler, but it was Kaylee, Madison, BF, and DM. They were upstairs, and that's where the story came. Oh, well, DM's now going to contact the private driver through his personal telephone number. He'd been off duty for some time that night, but they're going to text anyway, doing it from upstairs. And then we hear another story from someone else is saying BF's testimony is, got home, I go out and take Murphy for a walk with Madison, and then Murphy gets lost. I decide I'm going to go in the house because I'm cold. I get some chips. I get in bed. I'm going to sleep. Here's Madison. She wants to know if I saw Murphy. The stories that change from depending on who you're talking to. Could you imagine if the affidavit of probable cause would have had this information? At 2 o'clock in the morning, Kaylee, Madison, BF, and DM are on the bed on the third floor in Kaylee's bedroom, and they're talking, and DM proceeds to call the private driver who just let off Kaylee and Madison within 10 minutes or 15 minutes before. But then, no, that's wrong. Kaylee and Madison are frantically trying to get a hold of Jack D at that time, and he's not picking up, making I don't know if they're calls or text calls to him. Oh, wait a second. No, that's wrong. Take out the eraser and cross that out. What happened is BF decides to go for a walk with DM to take Murphy out. Murphy gets lost. DM comes, Maddie goes into BF's room. Have you seen the dog Murphy? And then you hear Murphy bark. It's like, how many different versions would this affidavit of private? How many erasure marks crossed out in red? Nope, that's wrong. We're going to plug this in. Hey, the truth doesn't need 25 different versions. The truth is going to be the truth on November 13th, 2022. It's going to be the truth on December 29th, 2022, when the affidavit of probable cause came out. It's going to be the same in May of 2023 when they had this secret grand jury that got the preliminary hearing canceled. And it's going to be the truth at the trial that never was, that should have started tomorrow. And I'm still wondering, why aren't we getting a trial in this case? The fireworks were hidden. Loud dog. Big point there. Big point. And J-Rod's asking, where's the investigation of those people's inside the house for hours after? Well, That J-Rod, are you speaking about the infamous 8-hour gap? That's one of the things that so many people have had questions on, and now having the benefit of seeing the Moscow Police Department's investigatory file, hundreds of pages. I have more questions now than I ever did about the 8-hour gap. And then we go, what are you intending to accomplish here in this chat? Timo. But if Kohberger got away, was it him getting, okay. So when we get Transformer Upload, hi, I've been following your channel, but this is, oh, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Truly appreciate your insightful, very enlightening. Well, my focus is we've always tried to help you guys read the documents. I went to law school, retired, so you look at things a certain way. Like if you were to ask me, my camera's not working here, I wouldn't even know step one what to do to fix it. The toilet backs, I wouldn't know step one how to fix it. I get a flat tire, no idea. You train, you learn things. And so I'll pick out motions and application for a court order. That's all that is. Nothing, no big deal, because they can't call up Hippler and say, Judge Hippler, I'd like you to in limine, make this ruling. Can we use the dollhouse or not? Nope, they got to file a motion. What are the briefings? It's motion, response, reply. That's it. And at hearings, motion, whoever files a motion speaks first. The response, they speak second, then the reply, and then Judge Hippler's either going to rule from the bench or he's going to do so in an order. That's all I do, is just point out a few things. Then I might say if there's some things there that I'd like you to look at, but ultimately it's the people that follow the channel that, you're the people that would have been on this jury. The people that follow this channel because they are inquisitive. They refuse to be told what something says. A lot of legalese. You take aside the legalese. Truth's the truth. I want to see all previous. Oh, Detective Mallory is wanting to see all of the prior reiterations of the PCA. Has been officially shut his phone off. And then we go, beer pong. Yes. Okay. Lad Dog, I was wondering if that beer pong table, did it just appear to be closer because of where a Corporal Schneider took that photograph? Because imagine all the activity that had to happen. You had to have, okay, let's go with the prosecution's version of the case, because he's pled guilty. Okay, so Kohberger comes in from the back door. He goes upstairs, does what he does. Maybe Zana hears something and goes up to the third floor, or maybe she doesn't. She just stands in the middle of the floor. He sees her, he chases her, or maybe she hears something, she runs to his room. So she's got to go past that table to get into the kitchen. He's got to chase her to her bedroom, and then's got to leave. And that table, I'm thinking if we see the other way, like from Dylan's room, for example, looking into that great room area, maybe that table's not as close. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here because we don't have the evidence in front of us of the 182 photographs. Feel like it's related somehow. I just don't know. I feel like it does. Works out. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Now we have at sentencing, Bill says BK snuck into the house. Now we have fireworks, right? Well, she had design rhythm is referring to the couch looked a little disheveled. There were things thrown around. We don't know. We need to see the evidence. Hopefully after tomorrow, we're going to start to see some things under seal becoming released. It's going to be on the public docket where you guys know how to read. You've seen the case summary page. You've seen the documents on the docket. Go to the Idaho cases of judicial interest. It's going to have the Kohberger case there. It's still up and running, even though the case has been closed. And if you hit the link there, it'll bring you. You're going to see the last two things on the docket. The very last thing is this August 4th order. And just keep watching it, or better yet, stay tuned to our channel. Stay tuned to the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Better yet, don't even bother subscribing to the podcast. Spotify hasn't done anything for me. It's YouTube where you can go back and you can search. YouTube has a search engine that you can go through. If you're interested in looking at the case, Like if you want to see all of the motions to compel, you type in motion to compel, or you type in order sealing, it's going to bring up all the episodes of the podcast going back to the beginning of the case. It will tell you where to go on the docket. That's my mission in life, is to show people, make their life earlier, because you can't search that docket. You can search it through the podcast on YouTube. And then we have J-Rod. Is Murphy the dog custody situation between the shelter and PD? I don't know. I know that there has been some talk that Murphy may have been dog napped from the shelter. I got to see some more evidence regarding that, J-Rod. I don't know what happened. Right now, I'm telling you, my time is really focused at, just on reporting on the stuff from the ISP that we just got, waiting to see what's going to happen if he's going to appeal, waiting to see what's going to be unsealed. And then at the top of the list is trying to figure out what happened with this sheath. Miller time. I read one of the ISP docs about Payne doing a dry. Yes, he did. Oh, are you talking about, well, yes, Miller time. You are exactly right. Miller time's writing. I read one of the ISP documents about Payne doing a dry run, or how long it took to unalive the four. At best timing, 30 seconds to 2 to 3 minutes at worst. Well, maybe if you're familiar with the house, it might, and with everything. I don't know how that's possible. It could be that, like I think it's like 4 minutes or less that could have accomplished. Imagine, the crime would have happened. Let's just, for argument's sake, let's take the state of Idaho's version of the facts. State of Idaho, the crimes happen the minute he crosses over into the house. That's count one, burglary, now has been invoked. He's got to go through the kitchen, upstairs, right? You got remember in your mind, we've seen of course, the house. Now, that's not sus at all, the house being destroyed in December of 2020. I'm going to talk about that, but the house that did stand at 1122 King. Got to go up those steps and then make the turn, and the rest of the steps. They're saying, I think they're saying that he might have gone into Kaylee's room first. I don't know how they would know that. The only person who might know that is Murphy. And from what I know, he's not talking, but let's just say he goes in. He goes to Kaylee's room first, sees there's nobody there, goes across the hall. Okay. He sees the two girls in bed. How many times was she attacked, Kaylee? How many times was this young woman attacked? 30-something times. And now we're learning her other injury. And then there's, so she's maybe fighting him. He's got to exert more. How much time? So that's going to be done inside of 20 seconds. I don't think so. I don't think so. Then got to go back, go downstairs, go into, then cross over around this table that may or may not be obstructing that doorway, and not fall flat on his face with that weird step right there. Go around the corner, go down the hall. Xana, 50 times? 50. How long does that take? 50 times. And she's struggling with him because there's defensive wounds from what we know. And then, not done yet, now Ethan. And then has to leave. It's from the point of entry into the kitchen to the point of exit. That's the time we're talking about. How's that get done in 3 minutes? And let's not even touch what's going on downstairs with the nefarious activity possibly on the first floor of firecrackers being thrown around. Okay, and then we got Murphy would have been immediately barking if a stranger. Zanetta, that's what you would think. It's not just, it's a stranger clad in black from head to toe, apparently. Okay. Leslie and Billy has made the event. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay. Anyone else? Any other points that we have not covered as we sit here? A person in mourning that we're not going to trial tomorrow in this case that we've been waiting for so long. And now we have to wait for the documents to hopefully drop into the docket. Any other questions, comments? Okay. All right. It looks like we've been going now for more than an hour and a half. So I really appreciate your time. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Please consider a membership if you can. That really helps our channel grow. Hit the like button. Thank you. I want to leave your comments, whether you agree or you disagree. But please don't call the other side guilters or Kohbergers. I don't like that when people call each other names. What we do here is we reason. Okay, this doesn't make any sense. Here's why. This is how I'm looking at that. That's all I'm interested in, is what your input is. So, Miller Time, thank you for the super sticker, and thank you for being here. You always bring so many things to the table. Let's look at what satire is saying right now. I'm getting chills. Okay, 4 souls that deserve justice and need peace. Prayers for the families. Satire of 100%. What a beautiful thought. Thank you. Okay, everyone. The other night police off. Okay, thanks. And that's why I want to thank you so much. Well, that's what we try to do, Leslie, is we try to give the facts. So read the document. Hey, I didn't write these documents. I didn't write the affidavit of probable cause. I didn't write this witness statement from the feds of this 36-year-old that we just learned about today. I didn't write the document of the interviews of BF and DF. All we do is reread, and we'll show it to you. We'll point it out. We'll tell you where you can get it. We'll relate to others if we can. It's your opinions that matter, what you think. My opinion is that we can't tolerate cases like this in this country. This case is going to be a precedent that cases can be in secret, and we can't. When we start allowing that to happen, we're operating like we're in China, or we're in Iran, or we're in Iraq. We're not. This country was set up beautifully with our Constitution and the Bill of Rights that the 13 original colonies demanded. And we can't tolerate cases like this. That's my biggest concern about this case. And as we've had satire say here, the 4 souls, they deserve justice. They deserve the best possible investigation to ensure that every person, and it might just be the person who's behind bars, we don't know, because we don't have the evidence, but every person who could have been involved before, during, and after the fact are held to account. They deserve that. I agree. All right, everyone. Thank you. Lily, thank you for being here. Delete that. Members of the channel. J-Rod, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it. A.R. Hayes, everyone who's watching on repeats, thank you. Miller Time, thank you. Thank you to angels I love animals are our angels. I love that handle. Thank you. My pleasure, Susie. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to get on I was going to say the Concorde, but they don't operate it anymore. I got to hit a plane overseas to meet Susie because she's got a glass of red wine waiting for me. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again. Bye.